Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fourth lesson in our equations unit. These are, going to be solving equations involving fractions, and I can almost guarantee that nobody's happy about doing fractions. You're either like, meh, okay, fractions, they're the same as other stuff, or you're like, fractions, this is my worst nightmare. Please save me, God. So usually people fall into either of those two camps. Nobody's like, oh yeah, fractions, I'm super excited, which is fine. Like fractions has never been anybody's favorite math topic. But hopefully over the course of this, as we continue doing these questions, you'll see that fractions don't really pose that much of a problem because we know that fractions are just another way of saying division, right? The fraction 1 over 4 is just 1 divided by 4, or you're doing, 4 is being the divisor there. So you'll see that using the same rules that we were talking about previously, it's very easy to do these questions. There's not much other stuff you have to do when you're doing these questions. So hopefully we'll see that, and we'll get okay with the fractions. Of course, I probably don't have to say this, but very important that we are familiar with all the things that came before this lesson. And again, I'm going to say there's different ways to solve these questions. I like doing it one way. Of course, the way that's given in your notes and the one that I'll be talking about here for the most part is the clear fractions rule, and that's you can do that. I'm going to say it's a little bit longer-ish, maybe. But sometimes it's easier, and it always gives you, a kind of a nice answer. So it's we're going to continue doing it that way, even though, like, realistically, there are easier ways to do it. I'll show you the easier way for those of you who want to try like a simpler method. You can. But it's not like it's going to save you mountains of time. It's going to save you like a step tops. That's it. Or half a step, if that. But it depends on what you want and what you want to use. Okay, so we're going to get started here. Okay, let's take a look at this. X divided by 4 equals negative 10. So again, you'll hopefully see here that the method we're going to use is clear all fractions by multiplying all terms, right, on both sides of the equation by the lowest common denominator of all the fractions that you can see. So here I see there's one fraction that's divided by 4. There's no other fractions. It's just divided by 1. So the lowest common denominator is 4. So I'm going to multiply this term. So all terms, right? So this term I'm going to multiply by 4. And this term I'm going to multiply by 4. So hopefully we'll see here that times 4 is just times 4 over 1, right? Multiply the numerator. 4 times x is, okay. You're going to do some cross-canceling here before you just do random multiplication. You can cross-cancel the 4 and the 4. So I'm left with an x. Negative 10 times 4 is negative 40. That's my answer. What is another way to think about this? X, there's the same rules that we were using until now, right? So the x is, the 4 is troubling my x, so I want to get rid of this 4. I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. X equals negative 40. And again, different ways of thinking about this. Are you doing the same thing? Yes, you are. Or you can move the 4 over to this side. I'm splitting up this term. It was an x divided by 4 term. I'm breaking it apart. And the operation on this side was division. So the operation on this side becomes multiplication. And whichever way you're thinking about it, the idea is you're just doing the same thing, is what the point is. It just depends on how you want to think about this. Again, if we're multiplying by the lowest common denominator, what's the lowest common denominator between 10 and 5? It's 10. So I'm going to multiply this side by 10. And multiply this side by 10. Do some cross-canceling. The 10 and the 10 go away. The 5 and the 10. It becomes a 2 and a 1. So here I'm left with x equals 3 times 2, which is 6. Let's try it some other ways. X divided by 10 equals 3 divided by 5. Again, I'm isolating for 10. I want to move the 10 over to this side. And I'm going to move it by making it a multiplication. Same answer, right? Multiply both sides by 10. Same answer. Here, again, same idea. Actually, this is going to be a bit different because by our first method, again, you can do it the first. So multiply each term on both sides by the lowest common denominator. The lowest common denominator, there's only one denominator, which is 3. So I'm going to multiply this by 3, this by 3, and this by 3. So 3 times 2x over 3 is just, I'm going to do some cross canceling, which leaves me with a 2x plus 3 equals negative 12. And now this is a fairly straightforward equation. I can just do 2x equals, subtract 3 from both sides, or move this to the side, making it negative 3. 2x equals negative 15. X equals negative 15 divided by 2. Did I do that right? Yeah. Another way you can do this is actually the way that it's done in your notes. Before you multiply by 3, you're going to move this negative 1 over to the side first. So you're going to get 2x over 3 equals negative 4 minus 1. Just follow the rules of reverse BEDMAS. First, you're doing the, getting rid of the addition. So 2x over 3 equals negative 5. And then, again, get rid of multiplication division. So you're getting rid of this 2. It was multiplied here, so you're going to move it to this side. It's going to become division, or in the denominator. Here the 3 is in the denominator. You move it over to that side. It's going to go to the numerator. So therefore, this is negative 15 over 2 as well. Same idea, right? So hopefully we're seeing that it's not too complicated. It's just there's some numerator. There's more division stuff than before. That's basically it. Until now there was basically no division stuff. Now there is division stuff. And again, when you're moving things, when you see moving things from one side to another, you can actually think about it as numerator-denominator kind of switching, which, if it helps, because that's maybe another way to see it. If I move things from one side, it goes from the numerator to the denominator. Like, if you want to think of it that way, you can. And I'll show you how to do that. So here, of course, the one way you can do it is you can first multiply. So again, the lowest common denominator between 3 and 2 is 6. So you multiply each term on both sides by 6. So you multiply this by 6, multiply this by 6, multiply this. You multiply each term by 6. So you're going to do some cross canceling. 2 times 4y is 8y. Cross canceling. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. 4 times 6 is 24. 8y equals 27, because then move it to this side, became plus 3. Y equals 27 divided by 8 is one of the ways I can get that answer. Let's look at some other ways I can get that answer. So first thing I could also do 4y divided by 3 equals 4 plus half. I'm just moving the this negative half over to this side. I'm moving the entire term, so it's it's a plus minus flip. So it is a minus half. It's now become a plus half. So 4y divided by 3, 4 plus half, take common denominator, times 2 times 2. 8 plus 1 is 9 over 2. And then again, so you're breaking up a term here, so you have to do like a numerator-denominator flip. 4 is in the numerator. I'm going to move it to the denominator. 3 is in the denominator. I'm going to move that to the numerator on the other side, because again, it's a multiplication division flip, so it's a numerator-denominator flip. And this is 27 divided by 8. Again, many different ways you can do this. You can actually, if you look at 4y divided by 3 equals 9 over 2, and now here you can multiply both sides by 6. I believe this is what is done in the question, because here's the lowest common denominator is 6. you get 20, cancel 8y equals 27, y equals 27 divided by 8. Whichever way you want to think about it and do it, again, it's useful to know all the ways or have at least an understanding of all the ways in your head, but if you want to solve it in one particular way, you should do it the way that you like best. So let's take a look at this question. Okay, I have two n's. First thing you have to look is how many I have. One n term, two n term, three. I have to collect all the n terms first. And because they're all separate, I have to group the n terms together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this 3 over 4n over to this side. And because I'm moving the entire term, it's going to be a plus minus flip. So this is going to be a minus 3 over 4n equals 7. There's also an n here. Right, and now again, what is the common denominator between 3, 2, and 4 is actually a 12. So I'm going to multiply this entire thing by 12, this entire thing times 12, this entire thing times 12, and do 7 times 12 as well. So 3 and a 12, I'm going to cross cancel 8n minus 6n minus 9n is 84. That's what I'm going to do. And now I do 8n minus 6n minus 9n is 2n minus negative 7n equals 84. Divide both sides by negative 7 or move the negative 7. Again, because you're splitting up a term, you're going to move it. It's going to be a numerator denominator flip. Negative 7 was in the numerator. When it goes to the other side, it goes to the denominator. 84 divided by negative 7 is negative 12. And that's your answer. There's many different ways you can do this. I'm not going to do all of them, but as you'll see, you can approach this in different ways. You can not multiply the 7 by the 12 yet and just find a common denominator for these three fractions and then kind of move the 12 to the other side. You can do that. But yeah, there's different ways. We're going to do a check. So 2 times negative, left-hand side first, divided by 3 minus half times negative 12. So what is that? Let's do some cross-canceling. Negative 8 plus 6 equals negative 2. On the right-hand side, I have 7 plus 3 over 4 times negative 12, cross-canceling. 7 plus negative 9, which is negative 2. Left side equals our side, right side, therefore checked. And there you go. Oh, was that it? Really? Oh, that was a small lesson. As always, usual, we're going to check some of the homework just to make sure we're... I'll just go over some of the difficult word problems. I said I think I'd return to one of the questions here. Was it question 10? Question 211, question 10? Oh, this is 221. Okay, this seems fairly easy in terms of questions go. Again, you're just going to first, you can do this both ways. You can multiply everything by the denominator here, each term by the denominator, and then kind of rearrange it. Or you can use, addition, reverse BEDMAS. First get rid of the 10, move this to this side. So you get b over 5 equals negative 1 minus 10, which is negative 11. And then 5 is the denominator here, is going to go to the numerator. So b equals negative 11 times 5 is negative 55. Different ways you can do this, but I'm sure you should be able to do that and check your answer from the answer key in the textbook. That should be fine. I don't think that's too much of a problem. 12F, 16B. 12F. Yeah, this is still easy. Just move this 1 over to this side, and then, 5 in the denominator goes to the numerator, negative 2 in the numerator goes to the denominator. and you're doing multiplication there. Yeah, that's straightforward. Let's take a look at this question, 16b. Again, I see two different x terms. And again, very important, we're okay with the fact that half x is just 1/2 times x, right? So the numerator here is the 1 and the x, which is just x divided, and the denominator there is a 2. So half x is just x over 2. I'm moving this x over 3 over to this side, so minus x over 3 equals 1 over 6 plus 1 over 4. And again, take the common denominator here is 6, so I can multiply each term actually by 6. It would probably be helpful. So this times 6, this times 6, times 6. Oh, it's not 6, it's 12, so it's a 4. There. 6x minus 4x 2 plus 3. 2x equals to 5. X equals 5 over 2. Again, this is just, I know I went through that super fast, but this is just to check to see if you're doing it correctly, or if you have questions to go over this and make sure you're getting the idea. But yeah, that was that. Easy stuff. Page 222. Let's go over to 222. Question 12. Again, nothing too difficult here. Really, there's two k terms, so you have to group the k terms on this side, find a common, multiply everything by the common denominator, move the constant term to the other side. Here, again, you'll remember when I said that if you have something on the numerator divided by a denominator, this is automatically goes in brackets. Very important. And so therefore, first thing, because this is in brackets, first you can take care of the division. You can multiply by 3, or move this 3 from the denominator to the numerator, so you get 2x plus 1 equals 15. And then you can go it. But very important to note, if you have a binomial or anything other than a monomial in the numerator and one denominator, the numerator automatically goes in brackets. You automatically have a 2x plus 1 here, and divide by the 3. So this 2x plus 1 is automatically in brackets. If you don't put the brackets, you might be prone to doing some funny stuff like moving the -1 over first before taking care of the 3, and you cannot do things like that. Yeah. So again, if you're just struggling with taking the common denominator, I'd highly recommend practice of 11. I'll do a couple with you. So if you look at the common denominator, 4 and 3 is 12. So you're going to multiply each term by 12. So times 12, times 12, times 12. So cross cancel, 4 and 12 is 3. 3 times 3x is 9x. Plus 8 equals 2 times 12 is 24. Common denominator is 6. So multiply each term by 6. 2 and 6 give me 3, so that gives me 3. This leaves me with a 2, so minus 2x equals to 2. There's only one denominator, here's 3, so that's the common denominator, times 3, times 3, times 3. So 2 times 3 here is, cross cancel first, so I'm just left with a 2, 15 plus 3x. You have to be very careful here. Like for these questions, this is the easiest way to do it, because if you wanted to solve this, again, you'd have to first move this to the other side. You'd have to do 2 over 3 minus 5, which again, you'd have to do this. 2 minus 15 is negative 13 over 3, and that's the answer for x. You could do it that way, sure, but again, be very careful when you're doing this. And coincidentally, I'll just do, what if this had been 2x? And I'll show you what would have happened. Now, if you did have a 2x here, you would have to do this step the same way. And now here, you would now say, like, okay, I'm splitting up a term. This 2 is now in the numerator. I'm going to move it to the denominator. So 13 over 3 times 2 equals x. So x equals negative 13 divided by 6 would be your answer. Just a quick note. You can try the rest of them. Fairly easy. For this one, I will help you with that. Again, you have to be careful here about the easiest way to do this question would probably be to okay, that's a lie. The easiest way to question is not to do that. In terms of thinking, the easiest way would be just to expand, move things, and then just solve it that way. But if you really think about it, you can multiply both by 5. You just have to be careful by what you define as a term, because technically this entire thing is like just one term. This is just negative 2 times, in brackets, x minus 8, right? So that's like a group there. That's just counted as like one thing divided by 5. So this entire thing is one term. So you're multiplying this by 5, multiplying this by 5. And so this 5 and this 5 in the denominator can cross cancel. You're just left with 2x minus 8 equals 20. Put a star beside this one. Very important to know how to solve this question properly. And you have to use distributive property now to get negative 2 plus 16. So x equals negative 2, I think, is your answer. But yeah, be careful about that question. Again, first thing, automatically put brackets here. I have two y terms that are on both sides of the brackets, so I should expand first. But what I can do to simplify that expansion is to take the lowest common denominator, which is 15, multiply this by 15, multiply this by 15. So 5 times y plus 2 equals 2y plus 3 multiplied by 3. So distributive property on both of them, put a star beside this question as well. Very good question. And I believe that though these questions are, I don't even know if I'm doing this too early. I think if I were to take a look, see the next homework, you might actually have question 12 CDE. Oh, they're not there, but put a star beside these two questions. These are similar to the next lesson that we'll be doing, but again, very important that we know how to do these kinds of questions, right? Solving equations using fractions. Then there's just a word problem. Easy stuff. I don't even know what. Refer to worksheet 3 and complete. Oh, here's worksheet 3. Okay. I was like, oh, I have to download something else. It's going to be a pain, but looks like we're good. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's it for this lesson. I will be back with lesson number 5. Again, hopefully we're practicing all the questions. We're making sure we understand things. But like I said, we're nearing the end of this unit. So you can actually expect some kind of assessment by late this week. Or no, not late this week. You should expect some kind of assessment by early next week. That's my prediction. Again, I'm not actually sure when the assessments are actually going out. That's up to Mr. Tremoli and the other teachers from the other sections of the other classes. So please don't take my word for it. But this is when you can reasonably be expecting. Sometime early to mid next week, you're going to have some kind of assessment on this unit. So until next time, I will talk to you soon. Stay safe. Practice social distancing. Peace out.